Lots of rest and lots of food. That's about the lifestyle of these horses as they bide their time for this weekend's Canadian Derby. I'm your host, Dana Giesbrecht. Welcome to a brand new episode of Go. Today we are here at Northlands, where the hottest ticket in town takes place this Saturday. Now, not only is it about the racing, the jockeys, the betting, it's also about the fashion, the fabulous hats, the wacky and wild outfits, the larger-than-life personalities. We're going to cover all of that on today's show. But up first, Shaw TV's Bianca Jade introduces us to some local gamers who are geeking out for a good cause. This is the post position draw board. So when you look down the line here, all of these names are the names of the jockeys and the horses and the number of the gate that they're going to be coming out of. And here, out of gate 6, we have Scott Williams. He's the only Canadian jockey at the Canadian Derby riding the horse Centerfire. Stay tuned. Later in the show, we're going to meet him. Plus, there's food and hats and so much to talk about. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back here on Go. Welcome back to the show. If you're just tuning in now, once again, we are down here at Northlands. This Saturday is the return of the Canadian Derby. It's the biggest race of the year. It's where the fastest horses meet the biggest hats. Action, glamour, and entertainment. And with every fancy event, you need some fancy food. We've got the perfect setting here in front of the tracks as we watch the horses be exercised. Chef Jatin and Chef Jamit, you are serving up what today?
We are serving some salmon, sockeye salmon with the new potatoes tossed in basil and mint, some local vegetables and churron sauce with the salmon, and also some Asian vegetable stir fry with grilled tofu and spicy teriyaki sauce.
Excellent. How excited are you for the big event this Saturday?
Really excited. We got lots of people. We'll be probably feeding almost 7,000 to 10,000 people.
7,000 to 10,000 people. It reminds you once again how large this event. And coming up for the show, we're going to be speaking with Chris Roberts of Northlands. The history behind the hats. Are you curious? I know I am. Stay tuned for that. But first, the Edmonton International Fringe Festival has returned to the city once again. And up next, Shaw TV's Jen McDonald introduces us to one of the new groups on the block. And voila, one of our finished dishes looking fabulous. We have the cooks finishing up our second dish behind me here. Stay tuned for that. But first, from the streets of Edmonton to the fields of Fort McMurray. Up next, Shaw TV's Jordan Hurtner introduces us to some of the young talent at the Western Canada Summer Games. We are now joined by Chris Roberts, the General Manager of Northlands, and talking all about the Canadian Derby. It's the 86th running year for this event. And let's break it down. What exactly is the Derby here in Canada?
Well, the Canadian Derby for us is by far the biggest horse race of the year in Western Canada. Horses and horsemen, horses are bred and raised to compete in this race. So this is the end of the line for a lot of these horses. The biggest race they'll ever race in. There's horses from all over North America that are brought in to race in. And so it's an exciting day. It's the biggest day of our year by far, and just a great celebration for Edmonton.
And how does the race itself actually work? It's all on this dirt track.
Yeah, all the racing takes place on our dirt track here, so we've got a crew of folks that work around the clock. They work 24 hours a day to make sure the track is in good, safe condition for the horses. You know, when it rains, they've got to dry it out.
Hopefully we don't have to.
Which hopefully we don't have to deal with. That's the goal
yeah.
for Saturday. But and when of course it's dry, we keep it nice and wet and moist and thick and cushioned for the horses. So we've got a lot of guys that have been working for a lot of time to get the track in great shape. And right now, fingers crossed,
yes,
it's in really great shape for Saturday's race.
Excellent. Now, for people like me who want to come down for the event and have some fun here, but know nothing about betting, what kind of prize money is up for grabs?
So that's the beauty of the Derby. You don't have to know anything to come out and have a great time with it. There will be almost $1.5 million wagered on the Derby card itself. There's $400,000 in purse money up for grabs for the owners and the trainers and the jockeys that ride the horses. For folks that want to come down that don't know anything about racing, we've got an army of what we call betting ambassadors down here. Nice. Come down, look for the bright orange shirts. They'll teach you all the ins and outs of racing and help you make it better too.
And of course, fashion is a huge component of the Canadian Derby. You have to dress the part, get your fancy hats. Where does that tradition come from? The over-the-top, big and bold hats?
Well, racing's always been the sport of kings. So, going back hundreds and hundreds of years in Europe, where racing, first became very mainstream, it was a hat and a tails and top hats and beautiful fancy dresses. And of course, for the ladies, the fascinators, and the great dresses and all that wonderful stuff. And to this day,
Where's your fascinator, Chris?
yeah, well, my fascinator, I'll be getting mine out, to go with my luscious locks on Saturday. But we're off to the golf tournament today, so we got a little more golf attire today. But that's the beauty of the Derby. If you want to come in flip-flops and a t-shirt, you can do that. If you want to dress in your absolute best, you can do that too, and lots of people will.
And there's a fashion show? Or some fashion prizes too.
Yeah, there's Best Dressed Man, Best Dressed Woman.
Nice.
Simons is our fashion sponsor this year, so lots of prizes, lots of cash up for grabs. So dress your finest, you could take home some big prizes.
There we go. Chris, thanks so much for your time. Stay tuned, more after this. A beautiful plated dish. We have some fresh vegetables. That's some salmon, asparagus, carrots. Who doesn't love cooking outdoors on a gorgeous day? Again, Chef Jamit and Chef Jatin with Northlands. And once again, we are here on location because this Saturday is the Canadian Derby, the hottest ticket in town. And it's all about the racing, the horses, the betting, the big fantastic hats, which we learned about with Chris Roberts of Northlands before the break, and the jockeys as well. Coming up on the show, we're going to introduce you to Scott Williams. He's the only Canadian jockey at the Canadian Derby, 25 years old, has a long tradition in his family of horse racing, and we're going to hear about the horse he is racing at the Derby on Saturday. So place your bets now, stay tuned, lots of fun to be had before we go. But first, summer's not over yet, and Barbed Wire is on the streets chatting with you. On today's episode of Health Matters, we investigate how to look and feel younger naturally. Here's Sean TV's Jen McDonald with more. We are now here with the only Canadian jockey in the Canadian Derby. This is Scott Williams. You're 25 years old and you've been racing for how long?
6 years now.
Okay, and tell us how you got into the sport of thoroughbred racing.
My dad worked on the track when I was growing up and stuff in Vancouver, and I just loved it since I can remember. My grandfather was a rider, and my grandmother and my whole family is involved in it and follows me, and they're always there for me, and yeah, it's just a thrill ride.
It's a family affair.
Yeah.
When you're on the back of one of these powerful horses as a jockey, what goes through your mind? What have you trained yourself to do to win these races?
Just belly down and try and win.
Belly down and try and win, but what's going through your mind?
Just like some races, pan out how you want them to, and sometimes you got to go to plan B, and you just got to think fast and do what you got to do to try to get to the wire first.
What's a typical plan B for a jockey?
Just whatever happens, I guess. I don't know.
Fair enough. Okay. Yeah, I'm sure it's just instantaneous. You don't even think about it. Tell me a little bit about the horse that you're racing and the possible prize money that's up for grabs.
Well, it's a $200,000 purse. It's a graded stake, and it's the Canadian Derby. It's the big one in Western Canada, and I'm Canadian, and I'd love to win it so bad for all the connections and my family. It'd be a good time. And horse I'm riding's named Centerfire, and I've won a stake on him before. And last year, he was 2 years old, and he was a little bit green. It took him a couple starts to kind of figure it out, but he's come a long way, and he's really become quite the racehorse.
Excellent. And what does Centerfire look like, so I know who to bet money on?
Oh, he's a big chestnut with a big white blaze on his face, and yeah, he's a pretty cool dude. He's grown up a lot since last year, and he's my buddy.
He's your buddy. That's awesome. We often learn about the care for these horses, but leading up to this race, what's the week before the race? Centerfire, what's his life like?
Well, they're just trying to keep him happy, and pretty well going throughout a normal routine. We gave him a good workout last weekend and a really strong gallop out. It's a mile and 3/8. It's quite the long distance, so you have to get the air into him, but at the same time not absolutely drain him. So and it's a horse for Greg Tracy, and he's pretty sharp. He knows what he's doing, so I'm confident in the upcoming to the Derby. So
excellent. And this is on your bucket list, so you get to check this one off.
Yeah, I hope so. That'd be nice.
Very exciting. Well, Scott, thank you so much for speaking with us, and best of luck on Saturday.
Okay, thank you.
Before we go, here's your on the go calendar. Some more delicious salmon going on the grill. All right, we are just wrapping up here at Northlands. Oh, some wine. Oh, some flames. There we go. That's a nice shot to end with. Perfect. Again, a big thank you to Chef Jamit and Chef Jatin here at Northlands. The Canadian Derby this Saturday. For more information about the race and how you can come enjoy it with your friends and family, head to northlands.ca. I've been your host, Dana Giesbrecht. We'll see you next time.